Okay, good evening and good afternoon. And I'm not sure if it's morning for some of you. I hope not. Nobody from North America. So, in any case, if it is, then good morning as well. My name is Pankaj Dixit, and I'm calling from Bangalore, India. I'm part of Ben's team as a program director for his I'm Life Coach training program in Bangalore. And I also run an executive coaching firm called Ultimate You. I'm really excited to be the first speaker on this series of webinar which I'm Life Coach has introduced and started. And I'm sure that this will go a long way. So I'm really, really privileged to be the first in the line. So a warm welcome to all of you to this first call of this global community. I assume that all of us are uh, already completed the coaching course and in some way related to coaching. So I assume that I'm talking to the coaches. So we all know that coaching is the art of questioning. The main activity of the coach is to ask questions. And the purpose of these questions is to create awareness in the client and to make him move to his target. The essence of coaching lies basically in these three questions. Where are you? Where do you want to go? And how will you reach there? So the powerful questions are the main tool in the hands of the coach. And in fact, all other tools, as I see, are in somewhat extension of this technique of questioning. Uh, for example, tools like Wheel of Life or 360-degree assessment or other assessments, they are all in the form of questionnaires. So it is absolutely essential for a successful coach to master the art of questioning. So today, in next about half an hour or 35 minutes, we will look uh, at some aspects of this essential skills. And in the last 5 to 10, and then you can actually ask me some powerful questions. Okay, so moving on to the next slide, we all have questions. I I like to see it this way that our life is run by the questions. For example, what next? Or where am I going in life? This is what moves us. So we move forward by these questions. In coaching environment especially, the powerful questions support your client in stopping their particular pathway of thought and looking at a situation from a different perspective. This creates a distance and thus allows the client to see easily. Okay. Can you hear me? Because I saw something that I was muted, Ben. Is it okay to go ahead?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, fine. Because I saw something on my screen says you are muted. You are okay. Okay. So powerful questions support opportunity for growth and creativity, and they help your client in knowing more about themselves and what they need to do. The questions work because they have energy. They can really move you, and you can see this from very simple questions like if I ask you, what are you going tomorrow evening, what are you doing tomorrow evening, and you will be forced to do something. You have to think and answer me. So even these simple questions make you to do something. And in coaching scenario, more deeper and powerful questions have much more energy. Really, they can transform life sometimes. As a coach, we must appreciate the power of questions and use it constructively to make the client move from where she is to where she wants to be. And for this, uh, we must understand we must understand the perspective of coaching. So before I talk more about questions, I would take a few about 3-4 minutes to set the stage and talk about what coaching is and how the questions fit in there. Okay? Um, as I see, and as I can best describe the relationship between the coach and the coachee, is that of a friend. Coach is indeed a friend, and this is very different from all other development interventions like um, counseling or mentoring or consulting and so on. In those cases, the other part, the facilitator, is on a different pedestal altogether. Yeah? But in coaching, coach is at the same level as the client. So the client doesn't have to look up to the coach, as in the case of mentoring, for example. So in coaching, both coach and client are at the same level. And coach can be seen indeed as a friend. And this friendship comes from a deep trust and confidence. And coach has to establish this trust before he can proceed. So consider this aspect, this important aspect in coaching. When you ask the question to the client, you you do not know the answer. You are not the expert. So even when you ask the question, you don't necessarily know the answer. You you work at the same level, and you let the client discover the answer. This is very different from all other um, all other scenarios, which is not coaching. Another aspect we should consider is, again, unlike in mentoring or in counseling or in consulting, in coaching, the coach is on the same side as the client, and the coach looks at whatever issue the coachee is looking at from the same side. So it's the same view, and coach is with the client all the time. And in our questions, there is an element of wonder and curiosity. Okay? Especially the coach looks at the big picture with the client. Okay? This part is very important, as the coach has to preserve this big picture for the client. Coach is the holder, and bring it to the fore wherever the client seems to lose sense of it. Okay? So a coach has to establish this big picture together with the client. It's client's picture, but coach is kind of a preserver for this and brings in whenever it's required. So when the client is considering any option, for example, you can ask this powerful question: how does it relate to your bigger picture, your life purpose? And immediately the perspective changes. Uh, so questioning, we said, is of course an important skill. But before questioning, I think another important skills in coaching is listening. And in fact, you can't ask questions unless you master the art of listening first. So before we come to questions, listening with full attention is absolutely necessary. The question actually should come from the listening. The question should be spontaneous. We should not prepare the question in advance. The question comes from what you listen. Okay, we should not be thinking of us. This is a common mistake, especially when what the new coaches make is that when the client is talking, they are thinking of their next questions. Okay, when the client is talking, we should have our 100% attention towards what client is saying, and the question should emerge from there. And when you are listening, it's not just about words, it's about complete understanding of client's perspective. So we must listen not only to the bad body language, which is obvious, but also to the feeling. It's a complete. We have to get into client's shoes. Sometimes what is said in the words is not uh, is not everything. So we should be in a position as a coach to go beyond what is said in the words. And finally, coaching is a dance. We often hear this phrase, and some of you are indeed experienced coaches, and I'm sure you would have felt moments when the flow of conversation seems to proceed as a dance. There is a complete understanding, and both the coach and coachee move with each other in perfect rhythm. There's no effort or pressure at all on either side. In this mode, it leads to discovery and insights. I mean, I understand that this is really an advanced stage of coaching when you can experience this, but this is where the coach leads to. So now, after having looked at the coaching, what it is and where does powerful questions fit in, let's consider what what the questions can achieve. Uh, One of the important, or I would say perhaps the most important function of powerful questions is to create awareness. A coach's job is to make the client look at the issue from various angles and in the light of awareness. And questions are powerful tools to create this awareness. Awareness is often mistaken as seeing outward, noticing what others are doing, how they are doing things, or how they are, or others, or the environment is stopping client from doing certain activities or living our life fully. Most of our notion of awareness is being aware of outside others and how the environment is affecting us. But uh, awareness is actually about having an inward focus, not an outward. Awareness is knowing how and why we do what we do, knowing the pattern that we have in our everyday life. Awareness is an understanding of our connection to the rest of the world. It's knowing our beliefs, our mind, our spirit, our body, our value system. In fact, in Jain tradition of Buddhism, questions are actually the main vehicles of creating awareness. These questions are called their koans, and the disciples spend sometimes their entire life, years and years, just looking at one question or one koan which is given by their teacher until they actually achieve enlightenment. Some of the famous koans, is what is your what is your um, original face, or how is the clap of one hand. Anyway, that's another topic. But questions can really create awareness. The right questions will make the client think. If we remember what we said about coaching in the beginning, is coach is on the same side as the coachee, and the questions come spontaneously from what the client is saying, and then make the client. So the question really comes as if they are coming from the client itself. Even the coach is asking, but they should look like client's own questions, and then they make the client to think from different angles. Learning about oneself is part of growing as a person, and that's where the questions help. The questions from the coach support the client in identifying the areas of her life that work for her and that which don't. What happens in normal thinking, even otherwise client is thinking always, and all of us, we are always thinking, but in our normal thinking we move in circles and don't move forward. And this is the problem. This is where the coach can help. Okay, normal thinking results in worry and sometimes even anxiety and depression because there is no movement forward. It goes into circle. What the coach does with the force of powerful questions, this those questions stop the inner discussion which goes on in the mind, and then moves in an identified direction, which is also identified by the coachee. And this is how uh, powerful questions in coaching is so helpful. Some of the questions which I use in, for example, in executive um, coaching scenario, this when people are not happy with my client is not happy with what his job, then I ask him, what would be the ideal definition of your job? What would be your ideal job description? This will make a person to go inside and think, what does he want? Or another example could be, if you get financial freedom today, you have everything, you don't have to work, which would you like to change in you? So these questions make the client think. And actually, in transformational coaching, we encourage clients to go inside. Our questions are used to help the client go deeper and deeper within herself. In coaching, we believe that client is expert. We know client has all the answers. So the questions which also, as we said, become client's question, and the answer also the client has to go inside herself, and she has all the solutions, just has to go inside. So the coach uses questions to make the client dig deeper within herself and come out with the solutions. uh, One of the most valuable contribution that you can make to the client is to help them become aware of their own behavior and become aware of why they are doing what they are doing. And this is why the client works with a coach, because they want to to encourage more positive things in their lives, and they want to get rid of something which are not which are unhelpful to them. Uh, some of the examples which I can think of these kind of questions. Success mean to you? Or what does being powerful mean to you? Or if they are in negative stages like being sad, or um, or feeling victim or something, we can ask them, what is the positive intention of feeling so? And these kind of questions will make client go deeper. And I think we said this point earlier, that the right questions are those which look like, to the client it should look like they are his own or her own questions. And this comes from a right environment. So it's absolutely important that the coach creates the right environment of trust and openness. Okay, then only the questions from the coach will look to the client as if they are his or her own questions. In fact, we can use this as a dipstick for good question. If it's a good question, if it's a powerful question, it should look like client's own question. Then only the client will be able to look at the issues objectively. Especially the question should never put the client on defensive. He should not be answering from defensive position. He should be answering as if he's thinking on his own. One of the trap actually in asking question which the coach has to avoid is to the advice trap. And again, most of the new coaches who come from consulting background tend to fall into this trap. Because we see the picture from our perspective, and when we are trained on questioning, we try to make question in such a way that we kind of give that advice in form of question, even though we are using questions, but we tend to push the client towards that advice. A good coach should suspend his own perspective. At the time of coaching, he should suspend all judgments, should completely get into the client shoes. Okay, so some of these questions could be, what do you like about yourself? And client should ask from to himself about himself. It's all about client. The coach doesn't have any view about this. Or what is your biggest worry about the future? Or what is your biggest fear? And these are just examples. We should not go preparing with these questions, but these are the questions which would look like client's own question, and in appropriate scenario will help. One more important question which never fails is tell me more, or what can you tell me more? I mean, if you want to put in question form, it's about client. So client sometimes, especially some clients, when they speak in short sentences, as a coach, we should encourage them to tell more and look at the issue from different angles and different perspectives. Normally, this is used for initially to gather information when client is saying, and when the client is not, especially when he's not able to see from other perspective and showing only one perspective, then try to use this to gather information about different ways of thinking. For example, if the client says, I'm frustrated, you can ask, tell me more, what specifically you are frustrated about? And this has to be done from a position of rapport and relationship of trust. Otherwise, they don't work. The coach needs to know about the client as much as possible. So these questions require trust, as well as they build the trust. Once the client is comfortable telling more and more about her, you build that relationship. Okay, so coaching, as we all know, is a process which takes the client from where he is to where he wants to be. And the starting point of this journey is to know thoroughly where the client is. So where are you, or where am I from client's perspective, is an important question in coaching engagement. In executive coaching, for example, this 360-degree assessment or other assessments like DISC or MBTI actually are all tools to understand where the client is today. So whether you use those tools or your own powerful questions, the purpose is to make the client look at and understand clearly where he stands, from where the journey has to begin. Even in life coaching, some sort of questionnaire, you can use Wheel of Life or other questionnaire, or your own coaching session in the coaching. In the coaching session, you can ask those questions, and you can create. And I have my own assessment. You can also create your. Most of the coaches have their own assessment to make aware where the client is. Okay. Another uh, function with which the questions do is the, they uncover certain aspect of clients' thinking patterns and behavior. Sometimes the client avoids going at certain places, and this happens at unconscious, sometimes at consciously also, but most of the time unconsciously. And this happens because of limiting beliefs or vested interest. I mean, they have some I mean, some part of the client has interest to hide certain things. Yeah. So the question should try to uncover, and this is done for the client. So this has to be done very, very carefully. The client should not feel offended. So it is really an art, uh, and the coach has to practice and learn it. When you make the client uncover certain aspect of her, which she would not like to say in normal conversation, it is a difficult time for the client. So the client should have complete trust. Personality, which would you like to change? Or if you have no fear, what would you do? So some of these questions can help client to go to places that where he would normally not go. The other part of coaching is, after you have discovered where he or she is, then where he is going, where he would like to go, or where he's heading towards. This is the perhaps the most important question, which the client should understand. Okay? Uh, if you have worked on the value and belief system and the bigger picture and the life purpose, you should be able to help your client to see that his or her designation is aligned with her core values and passion. Is it aligned with the life purpose? And that sets that stage of setting the goals. Okay, anyone who has accomplished anything worthwhile has consciously or unconsciously followed through on a goal. So you don't achieve anything without goals. Goals have power to keep us focused on a purpose. So the coach, through his questions, support the client through difficult times when it may be tempting to give up their goals, and, and, and pulls us to stay focused so that we can achieve them. Uh, so setting goals a, is a part of coaching. In all coaching, we have some kind of goals. It's an integral part. So as coaches, we support our clients in creating value-based goals. Before any goals can be set, the clients must first determine what their values are, what their life purpose is, and orienting these goals around the client's value will make them compelling and will pull the client forward. So one of the deficit again for the goal is that they should be pulling the client towards themselves. So I personally use a questionnaire called Value Finder to make the client go deeper and understand. But you can use your own questionnaire or even just questions during the sessions to set these goals. After the goals are set, another aspect you should discover through the questions is the resources which the client has. He needs to understand and be confident about what resources he can access. It's helpful to ask when he was successful in the past, what did he do best in the past, and what strength and resources he made use of. And and does he see a role model who has achieved what he wants to achieve now? What are the characteristics of that model, and what can he learn? Okay? So you can use these questions to make that client aware of resources. Another tool which I use, uh, I call it dashboard. So it's a metaphor. So I ask my client to rate the priority or the importance and urgency and criticality of the task or the issue on hand on a scale of 1 to 10. So 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. Then I ask them to look at the complete dashboard. Where is the priority and where is the urgency and what is the criticality of the task. And this sometimes creates insights immediately. Once I remember one of my client, when she was assigning priorities, and and then she looked and said, this is so important. She assigned a priority of 10, and she said, this is most important thing in my life. I have to do this. And this was like a, like a light. It's an insight. And she says, I don't need any more motivation now. Just seeing this, that in compared to everything else, this should be the most priority item in my life. It just makes her take action. Another example, another client of mine saw this, saw one of the issue which he was discussing with me, and he put that priority when he saw the overall perspective and saw that as that priority was sometime like 5 or 6, and he immediately saw some other tasks which were higher priority, and then he said, I'm wasting my time discussing on this because I should be doing something else. So I found this tool quite useful. Okay. Another thing you can do with powerful question is explore various alternatives or options. Sometimes clients do not see all the alternatives available to them at the first instance. So coach's job is to extend the horizon, looking at the problem from different perspectives. This is especially helpful. Yeah. So again, giving an example of one of my client who was troubled. I mean, that was the most important thing at that time. He was very much troubled by the behavior of another colleague of her, and that was taking all her energy. I asked her to look at this problem, look from the future, go forward 3 years in advance, and from there look at this problem. And she immediately saw that this is not at all worth even talking about. She said, I will not even remember about this after 3 years. And that created just an insight about work on something. Um, Another thing questions do is they actually create action. And we talked about this in the beginning. Questions have energy. Questions move. And that is the objective of coaching. We want to move the client. And coaching is about taking action, being in action. In fact, the client hire us because they want to move forward and they want change. So as a coach, we should use questions to move the client forward. Some of the questions are very common, which I guess all of you use. For example, what is the first step you need to take now after you have considered your option? Or what is the one small thing you will do this week or today or tomorrow? Okay. What needs to happen now? So some of these questions. We have to remember that coaching, once you have created an environment of trust and comfort, your job is also to make the client uncomfortable sometimes, because discomfort creates action. Okay? So ask to remember a time when the client was to take important decision. There is a period when you are thinking about, we are weighing all the information, going back and forth, and that makes some kind of discomfort. And then finally, when you make decision, everything is clear. You take a big breath and release all the anxiety and feel relieved. But that anxiety for a short while is necessary to move forward. And the question should break the limits. We should. That's an important part of coach's job, to move beyond client's limit. Clients would like, given on their own, would remain in their comfort zone. The coach's job is to use powerful questions to make the client aware of these limits. Okay, our job is to make the client aware, and what is the possibility, and then leave it to the client how we can remove and go beyond these limits. Okay. Now, as we are coming towards the questions are not investigations. Okay, so it's not like police asking the question, and coachee or the client should never feel that way. Otherwise, this will the coaching will never work. The, the coachee will never come out with his real self. The coaching question should not be directives, and I have seen this when I'm mentoring some of the new coaches, is that they tend to use those questions to direct the coachee in certain direction. That's not the purpose of coaching. That's not coaching. Coach should let the client find his or her own directions. Okay? There should be no hidden agenda. Again, sometimes it looks like the coach is asking the questions, but behind the scene, or in coach's mind, sometimes he is kind of pushing the client into certain, that there is some agenda. He wants to answer, to get the answer in certain format, or in certain answer, and that's where he tries to push the client. Remember, coaching is about the client. The coach should not even know the answer. Coach doesn't know the answer when he asks the question. Okay, and the why questions, you might have heard of, that we should never ask why questions in coaching, and the reason for that is the why questions are makes the client on defensive. They are kind of blaming question. He tries to justify or explain rather than thinking from. I know. Okay, fine. I just stopped because I saw something from Ben that can't hear me. Okay, so why questions should be avoided in coaching. Once you become expert coach, perhaps you would use some time when it doesn't create the blame or game. Then you can use, but I would suggest to avoid the why question. Okay, the question should be crisp and short. I have seen some of the coaches explaining their question. The coach should not explain the question. The questions are not from the coach; they are from the client, and let the client interpret them. Even if he, the client interprets in a very different way from what coach was intending to, even then it is fine, because ultimately it's the client who should consider what he wants to consider. So you should stop, ask short questions, and don't give examples or try to explain what this means. Let the client decipher what it means. And finally, persist with the question. So you should not just move around. I mean, just ask, just make the client on a firing line, having too many questions. Just persist with the question and stay with that, and let the client consider all aspects of that question. And the final word from me is use silence. Silence actually is a powerful question, because silence makes the client move to, it makes the client uncomfortable, and sometimes the coach also. The coach has to learn use silence as a question to make the client move forward. Okay, so with this, I think I'm on time, and it's time for me to go silent and allow you people to ask some powerful questions here. Okay, Ben, I don't know how you want to perform the question and answer. Is it online or it's?
I think Clementine has write something. He wants to thank you for your sincere and insightful sharing, and it really resonate and concur with your sharing, and he's looking forward to see how we can make a positive impact. Okay, Pankaj, you can just take the question online. I've already
Okay.
unmute everybody, and any one of you who has any questions, any clarification, any comments that you would like, you can ask Pankaj right now. So the space is open right now for anyone who has any questions for clarification. Thank you.
Uh, Pankaj, this is Dhruv here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, sure, Joe. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was rereading this Timothy Galway's book on inner game of work, and for a different reason I was rereading. And one of the very interesting things he talks about is the interference which comes. So, talks about performance is equal to potential minus interference. And the interference comes from the self-talk. So, the when we talk about listening and silence, as much as listening and silence is to the other, there's also a listening and silence to the within. And I feel that the more we do that, the more we can do the other part of it. So just a sharing that.
Yeah, thanks. Absolutely, very insightful group. Very, very. Thanks for your share. Anybody else? You could also type in your question if you want, if you're more comfortable typing.
Okay, Camlin, do you have a comment for Pankaj?
Yes, Mr.
Okay,
Pankaj,
great.
can you
Thank
hear
you.
me? Mr. Pankaj, thank you for the sharing. I really enjoy your slides, and when I look at the slides, like it's like happy tubes. It creates an image I can relate to it. I have questions to you. Early on, you says that we have to be on the same side with our client. So my questions is that, of course, it's important to let our client to see the big picture. Um, But is it also important whether are we on the same side, whether are we inside the story or outside the story with the client?
Yeah. Thanks, Clement, for your words and very, very important questions. Yeah, when we said we are on the same side, we are looking at the problem from the same side. It doesn't mean that we go inside the client's mind. We should always bring in the different perspectives. The important thing is the client should feel that he's looking at that, and so you are looking from the same side. So both of you, the coach and the client, should whatever perspective is brought from the same side. So coach should not look like he's bringing something from his side and giving it to the client, but it should come internally. And that's what I mean by looking at from the same side. Hope is it clear, Cameron?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
I just posted a question to you.
Okay, let me see. Co-create the relationship is fine. Yeah, that's Ben has put it very rightly. It is about co-creating the relationship. Uh, how can we appreciate the feel perspective, right? Um, See, as a coach, with a complete listening, when you are listening completely, the body language and the feeling, which doesn't mean that you have to feel what client is feeling. You don't have to feel, but you have to listen the feeling. You should understand the feeling, uh, and that is the difference. It's not about feeling what client is feeling, but understanding it what client is feeling. If the coach also start feeling with the client is feeling, then
Thank you.
I think when we have run out of time, 5 minutes
Sure.
more than time, so some people are already trying
Great,
to
no
leave.
problem. Is there anyone else who have any last questions that you would like to raise it for Pankaj to clarify? If not, let me just give a pause here for someone to respond. Okay, great. So if there is no one else, thank you for coming to join us. And we want to give a quick announcement is that in the next webinar that is going to happen in June, we are very glad to have foreign Lam, one of our program director in Kuala Lumpur, to come and lead us in the webinar. So I can see that Foreign is right now with us in the online session. Foreign, are you here with us now?
So yes, I'm still here with you.
Great. Would you like to give us a little bit of a thriller on what we can expect from you in June?
Um, well, presence, audio present is one of my favorite subjects because I feel that um, if you do not care to presence, you may not be able to come up with powerful questions or
Great.
provoking that can help the clients. And
Great.
it also requires coach to actually to learn how to be very mindful about
Great.
their reports. Yes. So
Great.
this is
Great.
some of the that we will touch on when at the webinar on presence.
Great. 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 Thank you. Now, what are some of the takeaway the participants can expect from this webinar?
Okay, you will learn how to actually be present with your clients,
Uh huh.
um, and at the same time uh, um, uh, that you can use the presence
Uh huh.
to help the client to evoke
Wow. Wow.
the
Wow.
very solution that the client needs.
Wow, that's
Yes,
great. It sounds very exciting and a very powerful tool that the coaches can use to really help clients to really see a shift in their perspective. So thank you for contributing and thank you for leading us in the webinar in the month of June. So for those who are here
yes,
today, watch out for our emails that will be sending out the information about this June webinar on presence, coaching presence. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, it will be in the month of June. Once the details is here, we will send it to every one of you. So please invite your friends to join us for the next webinar. It will be led by Forent, one of our program director in Kuala Lumpur. She's also a very outstanding coaches in KL and ICF or ACC credential holder. So thank you. Looking forward to see you guys again in next month in our webinar. Thank you. See you. Bye.
Everyone, bye.